Born in Honolulu, Hawaii to immigrants Bon Wook and Bo Wee, Michelle Wie picked up the game of golf at age 4. Her dad played a good standard of golf and her mum even won the Amateur Women's Championship in 1985. So clearly she had golfing in her blood. At 10 years old she became the youngest player at the time to ever qualify for the US Women's Amateur Public Links Championship. At 11 she won both the Women's Stroke Play Championship and the Jenny K. Wilson Women's Invitational, which is the oldest, most prestigious women's amateur tournament in Hawaii. After blitzing the field by 13 shots in the 2002 Hawaii State Women's Open, Michelle began setting her sights on tougher competition. At the age of 12 she became the youngest player at the time to ever qualify for an LPGA event. Whilst she missed the cut at the event, she got another chance at the 2003 Kraft Nabisco Championship, where not only did she become the youngest LPGA player to ever make a cut, but she also played in the final group on that Sunday. She didn't win that event, but later she did pick up a win up at the Women's Public Amateur Links Championship. With that win, she became the youngest person ever, male or female, to win a USGA event. In 2004, at the age of 14, Michelle was offered a sponsor exemption to the Sony Open in Hawaii. This was only the 4th time a woman had played in the PGA Tour event, and Michelle was the youngest of them all. Her second round score of 68 was the lowest ever by a woman in the PGA Tour event, and whilst she did miss the cut by 1 stroke, her great performance proved that at just 14 she was ready for bigger competition. After the tournament, the whole world knew who Michelle Wie was, and she continued to play well and make a name for herself. That year she became the youngest woman ever to play for the US team in the Curtis Cup, which even went on to win. In 2005, Michelle was invited to 5 LPGA Tour events and 2 PGA Tour events. She was consistent in the LPGA Tour events, even managing 2 runner-ups, but didn't manage 1 cut on the PGA Tour. The summer of that year she entered the US Amateur Public Links Championship. This made her the first female to qualify for a USGA National Men's Tournament. And again she had a great showing as she made it all the way through to the quarterfinals of the event before losing to the eventual champion Clay Ogden. A week before her 16th birthday, Michelle announced that she would turn pro, and she was immediately snapped up by Nike and Sony for a reported $10 million a year contract. So obviously, people were buying into the hype and sponsors were putting the money where their mouth was. But things didn't continue to get much better in the early parts of her pro career. Between 2005 and 2008, Michelle went through inconsistencies with her golf game, injuries, and some other little controversies along the way. So because the LPGA has a membership age requirement of 18 and Michelle was 16 at the time, she couldn't become an LPGA member. The tour had granted exemptions before, but Michelle chose not to request one, meaning she could only play in sponsored invites till she was 18. In 2005, playing in her first pro competition, she was disqualified after signing an incorrect scorecard. 2006 was pretty successful. She didn't win, but she had several high finishes on the LPGA Tour, and even became the second woman to make the cut on the Men's Asian Tour. But Michelle's progression came to a halt. Through 2006 and 2008, Michelle was winless against the women and couldn't make a cut against the men. Suffering with wrist injuries, at one point Michelle was 14 over par through 16 holes in an LPGA Tour event which she later withdrew from. This was very controversial because the LPGA has a rule of 88, stating that a non-LPGA member shooting 88 or higher on the LPGA Tour is forced to withdraw and is banned from LPGA Tour events for the rest of the year. She was also then disqualified for walking out the official tournament area before returning her scorecard. Michelle was getting a lot of backlash for how she was treating her caddies. After finishing tied for 26th at the 2006 British Open, her caddy Greg Johnston was fired over the phone by Wie's then agent Ross Berlin. This was only the start as many other caddies didn't make the mark. Whilst these were silly mistakes, it was the fact that she was still ranked as one of the highest paid in golf and was still looking for exemptions into men events. Many argued that she shouldn't get any more exemptions because it took away opportunities from players who were more deserving. She was also criticised for the decisions to enroll in Stanford University despite not being able to play golf there. Credit where credit is due, Michelle stood by her decisions, and in late 2008 she earned her way through the LPGA Q School. This allowed her to secure her tour card for the 2009 season. With this full schedule, Michelle now had the opportunities to blossom, and that proved the case, as in 2009 she picked up her first win at the Lorena Ochoa Invitational. This, along with her solid play, earned her a place on the US team for the Solheim Cup. With her 3-0-1 performance, she helped the team win. In that year's US Open, Michelle finally lived up to all her hype and became a major champion. Her Power Mount birdie putt on the 71st hole gave her a 2-shot cushion going into the last. With this major triumph, it seemed that Michelle had reached her prime and would be able to build on it. But fast forward 6 seasons, and after more brutal ups and downs filled with injury, Michelle had only 1 win to her name. We had to wait until 2018 at the HSBC Women's World Championships to see her 5th LPGA Tour win. Sadly, later that year she suffered another wrist injury that would force her to get surgery. This injury continued to hinder her in 2019 as she managed 5 events all year. At that year's Women's KPMG Women's Championship, she shot 84-82 to miss the cut. In a tearful interview, she explained she didn't know how much she had left in her. Later that week, she announced that she would sit out for the rest of the season and wouldn't return until she's healthy. And that was the last time we saw Michelle Wie in tour action. Off the course, she's got married and had her first child in 2020. And after previously saying that once she became a mother she wouldn't play golf anymore, the recent birth of her daughter has ignited a new flame in her body, and golf is once again exciting her. Michelle is back practicing again and planning on returning to the game after the COVID-19 situation is much better. For the meantime, she's now reporting for the Golf Channel and CBS. So the question is, why didn't Michelle live up to everyone's expectation? I believe the injuries would have came from over-practice from her parents at such a young age, and the fact that she wasn't a great natural putter. Also, she should have just concentrated on the women's game and conquered that before even thinking about the men's events. But now that Michelle has responsibilities in her life and money is no problem, I believe she will win again. After all, she's only still 31 years of age and has plenty years of golf left in the tank. How many years though? Well, that depends on her health.